President, in addition to the statement you've issued earlier, would you here give your evaluation and reaction to today's successful launching of an American astronaut into space and back?
Well, I first would like to repeat what I said about Major Gagarin, which was that as a human accomplishment and as a demonstration of courage, I think everyone, whether they're citizens of this country or citizens of another country, take the greatest personal satisfaction in the accomplishment of another member of the human race. As an American, I am, of course, proud of the effort that a great many scientists and engineers and technicians have made, of all of the astronauts, and of course, particularly of Commander Shepard and his family. We have a long way to go in the field of space. We are behind, but we are working hard, and we are going to increase our effort. In addition, we are making available the scientific information which we have gathered to other scientists in the world community and people who share our view that the probe into space should be peaceful and should be for the common good. And that will continue to motivate us.
In that connection, Mr. President, were you satisfied with the coverage given today of the space shot? And if you were, and it was not a successful thing, would we be back in the orphanage?
Back in the what?
Orphanage.
Well, I agree that if it had failed, having had some experience with that, it would be a very difficult time for NASA and for us all. But fortunately, it succeeded. I have not got the answer, however, to the question of the build-up. What I think is somewhat unfair is when pressmen themselves or editorial writers criticize NASA for attempting a big build-up with all of the implications it would have to our prestige and standing if there's a failure. We are not responsible. At least we're making every effort not to be responsible for encouraging a press concentration on this event, because quite obviously if we fail, we're humiliated here and around the world. But in a free society, if a newspaperman asks to be represented and to come, then he can come. So I think everybody ought to understand that we're not going to do what the Russians did of being secret and just hailing our successes. If they like that system, they have to take it all, which means that you don't get anything in the paper except what the government wants. But if you don't like that system, and I don't, then you have to take these risks. And for people to suggest that it's a publicity circus, when at the same time they're very insistent that their reporters go down there, it does seem to me to be unfair. What is fair is that we all recognize that our failures are going to be publicized, and so are our successes, and there isn't anything that anyone can do about it or should.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, visitors who go out to visit Lincoln Park on East Capitol Street are dismayed to find it a slum. Congress has authorized, and the National Council of Negro Women will erect there a memorial stadium and a statue of the great woman educator, Mary Bethune. Now the transit company proposes to put an 8-lane freeway between the park and the Capitol, cutting it off. Could you inquire into that and see if the freeway could be put further out beyond the park?
Yes, I will. It's fine.
Mr. President.
You're very gentle today, Miss Craig.
Congressman Alger of Texas today criticized Mr. Salinger as a, quote, young and inexperienced White House publicity man, end quote. I questioned the advisability of having him visit the Soviet Union. I wonder if you have any comments.
I know there are always some people who feel that Americans are always young and inexperienced, and foreigners are always able and tough and great negotiators, but I don't think that the United States acquired its present position of leadership in the free world if that view were correct. Now, he also, as I saw the press, said that Mr. Salinger's main job was to increase my standing in the Gallup polls. Having done that, he's now moving on to improve our communication. As I say, Mr. Salinger, Mr. Azube are responsible for our interview, which I think was very helpful. And if I think anything we can do, I don't think we should worry so much about Americans traveling abroad. I think they've acquitted themselves well, and so will Mr. Salinger. I'm sure that some people in the Soviet Union are concerned about Mr. Azube's visits abroad. I did read that Mr. Reston's column in the Times, where Mr. Fulton Lewis had said that no one could get to the right of Barry Goldwater, but now I'm not so sure.
Mr. President, there's been a price increase in Cuba as well. Mr. Castro has increased the price that he's put on human life in the release, or the tentative release, of the prisoners captured in the abortive invasion attempt last year. Would you comment on this, please?
Well, I think that all of us had hoped that the day when men were put in the block had long ago passed from this hemisphere. And it has in every country until very recently in Cuba. And I think Mr. Castro knows that the United States government cannot engage in a negotiation like that, and he knows very well that the families cannot raise these millions of dollars. It's rather interesting. What he has done really, in effect, is sentenced him to 30 years in prison. It's rather interesting that Castro himself, when he engaged in a operation under a dictator whom we've been harshly critical of, that he was let out of prison after an open trial in 15 months. He regards, for his own countrymen, not the countrymen who, from his point of view, may have been wrong, but who fought in the open and who took their chances and who are young men, he regards the appropriate treatment for them and for thousands of other Cubans to be this long prison sentence of 30 years, which in my opinion is why Mr. Castro is increasingly isolated in the company of free men.
Mr. President, sir, what are you going to do about American soldiers getting killed in Vietnam?
Well, I'm as extremely concerned about American soldiers who are in a great many areas in hazard. We are attempting to help Vietnam maintain its independence and not fall under the domination of the communists. The government has stated that it needs our assistance in doing it. It's and it presents a very hazardous operation in the same sense that World War II, World War I, Korea, a good many thousands and hundreds of thousands of Americans died. So that these four sergeants are in that long role. But we cannot desist in Vietnam, and I think that it is the fact that these men operating very far from home, very far indeed from Saigon, under great danger, and there are many others, the fact that of their contribution, as well as the Wisconsin and Texas National Guard, it is in that setting that I look at the present actions.
I think that the question was very clearly answered by Mr. McNamara on what effect the atmospheric test ban would have on the development of an anti-missile weapon. Now let's just think of the other side of it. If we begin to test again, and the Soviet Union tests again, and others begin to test again, how much security do we have? As I said before in my message, I said to the Congress, we needed only one test to develop the Hiroshima weapon. Now, to anyone who works in the laboratories today, a 30 megaton weapon is perhaps not as sophisticated as a 60 or 70 or 80 megaton weapon. But it's still many, many, many times, dozens of times stronger than the weapon that flattened Hiroshima and Nagasaki. How many weapons do you need, and how many megatons do you need to destroy it? I said in my speech, what we now have on hand without any further testing will kill 300 million people in 1 hour. Now that's and I suppose they can even improve on that if it's necessary. So on your specific question, I refer you to Mr. McNamara's answer, which I think is the clearest and most specific answer that you could possibly get on what effect the atmospheric test ban will have on the development of this weapon.
Mr. President, just shortly after the Bay of Pigs, I asked you how you liked being president. And as I remember, you said you liked it better before the event. Now you've had a chance to appraise your job. Why do you like it, and why do you want to stay in office 4 more years?
Well, I find the work rewarding. Whether I'm going to stay and what my intentions are and all the rest seems to me still many months away. But as far as the job of president goes, it's rewarding, and I've given before to this group the definition of happiness of the Greeks. I'll define it again. With full use of your powers along lines of excellence. I find that, therefore, the president provides some happiness. Yes.